Caribbean is often described as the most tourism-dependent region in the world. A Titan is described as one that stands out for greatness of achievement, one who is influential in his field. I'm Marlene Stevenson Daly. Welcome to our podcast. We call it Jamaica's Tourism Titans. It's about the movers and shakers of the industry, men and women who have contributed to its growth and development in Jamaica, the region, and indeed the world. Hello, and welcome once again to Jamaica's Tourism Titans. I'm Marlene Stevenson Daly, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the program a gentleman who has, many years. I'm not going to date him, but he has many years of experience in this tourism industry. And I had the pleasure in 2023 on National Heroes Day to admire him walking down the pathway to be conferred with the Order of Distinction in the rank of officer for his sterling contribution to the development of tourism in Jamaica and for his community service as well. There's so many things I could tell you about him, but we're just going to have a little chat today, and maybe he'll tell us some of the things that we want to hear about him and answer some of those questions that we may have for him. He is Clifton Reader, and he has, as I said, many years of experience, but he has, I think, quite a journey to share with us. Clifton Reader, howdy and welcome.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I must say that I'm a product of the country. There, Clarendon, Sugar Belt area.
Yes.
I was born there from a family of 10. My father, they said, was a farmer, so he could feed us. And of course, he was a tailor as well. So he could clothe
you.
So we didn't have a problem at all growing up in that very large family. And of course, large families tend to build security. Mm-hmm. So we felt very secure. And I was the second to last.
I was about to ask, where did you fall?
So being the second to last as well, I had brothers who were more than twice my age sometimes. So the protection was there and everything.
And they didn't want to boss you around like my bigger sisters and brothers.
Not at all. I went to Portland Cottage all-age school, mm-hmm. and then going on to Glenmuir.
Before you get to Portland Cottage School and Glenmuir, what is your fondest memory as a child? Do you get up to all kinds of trouble in the cane piece and those kinds of things? What did you do?
Oh, yes. I mean, my mother died when I was 7, so I grew up with my father, mm-hmm. and mainly my brothers. My older sisters live in the community as well. Mm-hmm. So,
how many boys, how many girls?
5 and 5.
Nice balance there.
Nice balance. So we used to, just go to the farms, and we always have peanuts in our pockets. We always have playing marbles, cricket in the middle of the road.
Making your own cricket bat and ball?
Oh, yes. In fact, I chopped my finger right off once and put it back together and everything. We used to make our own toys, everything. We were just practical kids and did everything together.
Wow. Sounds like it was fun. All right. So take us back down to the schools that you attended.
Portland Cottage all-age school, and I had the privilege on New Year's Day. Normally every New Year's Day, my father, mm-hmm. and now my brother that I followed, he normally put on some kind of family get-together. Mm-hmm. And we had about 60 of us. And we decided to trek into the hills. So we went to an estate around there because I'm a Russell, mm-hmm. Through my mother. So we trekked right into the hills looking for the old graves, the old houses at a place called Russell Park, over 150 acres of land.
Wow.
And we went to the school as well. And just like I remembered it, stood in the classroom where I learned my ABC, and it was just nostalgic.
Oh, taking you all the way back to that time. Wow. You know, I think our childhood, as the psychologist will tell you, is perhaps the most important part of your life. It's that foundation. It is that on which we grow and stand. And all the people who are a part of that village, who I'm sure, even if you were not their immediate child, saw you as their child. Because that's where we're coming from as a nation.
Oh, yes. I mean, we couldn't do anything at all
Mm.
because my father was Jeremiah. I was known as Maya Boy. And we could not do anything in the eyes of the community. They would go back and tell him. And he was one of those silent but very strong gentlemen and principled.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say, I learned a lot from those days, that those principles that you learned as a child,
Mm-hmm.
because I also grew up in the Anglican church as well, being the president of the Anglican Youth Fellowship.
Okay.
That was my first leadership role.
Wow.
Coming out and getting into
Mm-hmm.
Veertech and everything. Of course, I did a few other things when I was at Veertech.
Tell us about your time at Veertech. How did you get there, and what are the highlights of that period?
Well, it was the Ben Francis era.
Mm.
Discipline, discipline, discipline. So as boys, we used to like to crawl over the fence, under the fence, to get our lunch on the outside. And I must admit, Veertech provided the best because I did agriculture science there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had everything from rearing pigs, sheep, goats, cows.
You mean hands-on
everything.
on the campus?
Hands-on.
Okay.
Because being an agriculture student,
Mm-hmm.
at least 2-3 days per week, you work on the farm, doing everything. We had chickens and everything, and from eggs right up to a full bird, we knew how to take care. So you will see how that fall into what I do now.
Yes, because that agriculture background would have lent itself to some food and beverage
Exactly.
exploits later on. So Ben Francis era, did you play any sports?
I used to do long distance running
Mm-hmm.
up in Kellitz and all those places from primary school. But when I went to Veertech, those fast boys, I'd be reversing.
Just
So
beat you
I
out.
concentrated on the academics.
All right. So you were at Ver Technical doing your agricultural science, and then you had to move to another country.
Yes, because through the Anglican Church, actually, I got a scholarship because my life has been a series of scholarships taking me through high school, university, right up to master's degree. So I got an opportunity at 16
Mm-hmm.
to go to England. And my passion, of course, was all the science. We did all the science subjects, and I
Mm-hmm.
really, really like science.
So you'd have done these science subjects at the A level, at the advanced level?
Physics, chemistry, and bio.
Okay.
So I went to England, went to Birmingham at first, spent 2 years there, then moved to London.
Did you have any culture shock when you got there?
Oh, yes.
Tell us.
I mean,
Like a country boy coming
first
from
of
there
all,
in Clarendon.
yes.
And now in London. Oh, right. What did that mean for you?
I mean, being from the country and everything, I came across a few white people before, but getting into the masses and really saw that they did manual work a lot dirtier than what I am used to on a farm.
Yes.
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, the diversity of people over there as well, because I actually boarded with a gentleman from Nigeria. He was the son of the commissioner of police for Lagos, Nigeria. I remember his name to date, Abiodan Oladimiji Banjo.
I can't call that. No, I can't call that one. So did you get into fish and chips and the kapitai and all of those kinds of things?
Everything.
Yes.
Except,
Immersed yourself.
Everything except I did not get into the accent.
Ah.
I retained my flat Jamaican accent.
And that's all right. No problem with that. So you studied the sciences in England. What brought you back to Jamaica?
Well, that was very interesting because having studied the sciences, I decided that, I was going to do medicine. So I
Sounds
could
like a
have
natural
gotten,
fit.
yes, I could have gotten into Queen's Mary's College in
Mm-hmm.
England, but I decided that all my schoolmates would be coming up in Jamaica and I wanted to come back home
Mm-hmm.
to make that link. When I told my uncle that, he did everything to keep
To
me in
keep
England.
you.
He
Oh.
tried to marry me off. He drove so slowly so slowly to the airport.
You would have missed
I
your
could have
flight.
missed my flight. I mean, he was convincing me to stay, but I had my eyes set on Jamaica. So I
Yes.
came back to Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
went back to live with my uncle in St. Thomas. He was at the time the production manager at Goodyear, and he was also the counselor for Seafort.
Okay.
So he was the one that got me my first job.
So where was that?
That was at Wyndham Kingston,
Mm-hmm.
77 Knutsford Boulevard.
Ah.
And that was my university for the time being because I learned so many things there.
What are some of the
And
things that you learned? That first job at Wyndham, which is now propelling you into tourism. Wyndham being, what it was then.
Well, I was working with so many interesting people.
Mhm.
Quite a few of them had careers in the military before. Some of them coming out of university at the time. I remember my front office manager then 23 years old, Marlene Robinson, and she was just coming out of university.
Wow.
And she had all that experience and knowledge ready to pass on to us. So we were soaking it up because Wyndham had professionals from Jamaica, from a food and beverage perspective.
Mhm.
Norma Foreman was there. Diana Marley was there. El Suna was there. I mean, just very interesting
Yes.
people. And we just learned from them. Glaister Hales. I mean, I remember Glaister one day, he said to a waiter, if he should catch them like eating something, he would fire them. And we were like, whoa. And he said, only a bad waiter you'd catch eating. So,
Yes.
it was
Some
just
things are for the back of the
yes,
house and others are for the front of house.
Definitely.
So you know how to comport yourself. Now, you started as a cashier
Yes.
and you progressed in that organization.
I was at Wyndham for about 4 years. And because immediately as I came back, I got a job in September. And I started out as a cashier. Shortly after, I went to cost control. But whilst I was in cost control, they were basically shedding staff. And I was the last one in. So I would be the first one out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, say, Marilyn Robinson, she called me one day and said, "You're not going anywhere." And I said, "Well, I'm the last one in, so I'm gonna
Right.
be
So
out."
you have to find another way.
And apparently one of our staff, she was at a party one night, and the boy had called in sick and he was on the dance floor. So that was my opportunity to get onto the front desk, to literally switch from food and beverage
Yes.
then to the front desk. And I became assistant manager there. And, after that, I went back to university because I got a scholarship, the Year of the Worker Scholarship, in 1988, commemorating the 150 years of emancipation and 50 years since the worker uprising in Jamaica in 1938. So I was the proud recipient of that scholarship.
Quite a historic.
Through the tourist board, actually.
Yes, quite a historic
Yes.
piece as well. So that thrust you into which university now for studies?
I was by that time, whilst I was at UWI, I actually applied. Whilst I was at Wyndham, I actually applied for UWI twice and got in twice
Mm-hmm.
to do the sciences. And I dropped out. And so when I got the scholarship, I decided, since I was in hotels
You would do
for 3 years already,
yes.
I'll just do hotel management. And it was a nice opportunity to run away to Nassau as well.
All right, so fast forward. You're now in Nassau and you're a student. Just give me, what was the highlight of that experience before we take the break?
I was a mature student in Nassau, which meant that having had hotel experience for 3 or 4 years, the lecturers were lecturing, and I remember Ainsley O'Reilly and Christos D. Salvaris, who taught me food and beverage, Tony Hall. And
I remember Tony Hall.
It was very interesting having conversations with them because, like, Mr. O'Reilly was the innkeeper at Holiday Inn before. But one of the criticisms I always have of universities is that what they were teaching you and the equipment they were using were ancient in comparison to what I was using at Wyndham.
Yes.
So many classes, I was there kind of leading the discussion.
Yes, and it would have been good that you would become a sounding board, and the younger students who don't have the experience or who didn't have the experience that you had would now be able to learn from your experiences as well.
And that was a great teaching moment for me.
Yes. I could see a good teacher throwing you in that position and saying, Clifton, what do you think?
And that they did.
Yes. All right, we're talking inside Jamaica's Tourism Titan to Clifton Reader, our recipient of a special honor and award from his country, Jamaica. But he's also a former president of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association and so many other things. We'll talk a little bit more when we come back right after this break.
In tourism, the people are the product. Yes, they are one of our industry's most important assets. They help create memorable lifetime experiences. They, through their service, make the difference. We share the stories of their challenges and triumphs, of what makes them tick, of who they really are, just to inspire you to act positively. You too can be an ambassador for tourism and our country and become a Jamaican tourism titan. Start today.
TPDCo's Explore Jamaica has insights into licensed tourism entities across Jamaica. Visit the Google or Apple Play Store and download the app today.
Welcome back to Jamaica's Tourism Titans. I did say before we took the break that we have a very interesting and a very dedicated tourism professional as our guest today. He is presently the Vice President of Palace Resorts Jamaica and the Turks and Caicos Islands. And he has, as I said, a storied career in tourism and hospitality. When we took the break, we were talking about his trip to the Bahamas as a student and how he was able to, be a sounding board and to add his experience to the knowledge that was being transferred by all of his lecturers and all of that. So you headed back to Jamaica from the Bahamas?
Yes, I came back to Jamaica from the Bahamas, and my first interview was with Siboney as banqueting manager. And then I went to Super Clubs to get a position as assistant food and beverage manager.
So we're making the connection now with the agricultural science and all of that.
Correct. But as a result, and this is one of the principles on which you have to base your mind, because Super Clubs told me that after a year, they would sponsor me to do my master's, while Siboney was paying me probably 40% more and, more benefits and everything.
Yes.
So I had to weigh money against education.
Yes.
And education won.
One.
And so I went to Super Clubs.
So it might have been the longer route to what you wanted to do.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I went into Super Clubs as assistant food and beverage manager. Did a range of things because there I got to manage maintenance when we didn't have a maintenance manager. I got to manage a golf course, manage security. It was a range of things that I studied. And
And now you're able to bring all of that knowledge to the
bring
fore.
that knowledge
Yes.
to the fore.
Mhm.
And working with a food and beverage manager, I was able to learn a lot more about food and beverage.
Mhm.
And after a while, I got called by Sandals. After giving Sandals my resume for over 2 years,
Mhm.
the late Dr. Ben Henry had placed it on Merrick Frey's desk.
Yes.
And, they called me after 2 years, and I really didn't want to go because I love super clubs, But when I went to Sandals, it was a totally different
Yes.
experience. And again, a different level of learning and experience and everything. And I was there for probably a year. And they actually sent me to Cornell University to do the general manager's program.
Mhm.
And later on, to Lausanne. So I was able to go back to Nassau, saying to Ainsley O'Reilly, when I was in Lausanne, because that was his favorite term,
Yes.
lecturing us, So, but Sanders gave me so many opportunities. I mean, from being a food and beverage manager to a resident manager, and of course, later on, general manager, because I remember I left Jamaica with Sandals to go to Turks and Caicos first. And then I was on a vacation and just walking around and seeing Nassau and everything. And my wife and I walked by the poolside, and Brian Roper came and said, "You like your new hotel?" I'm like my new hotel? This must be something else, because I have one in Turks.
Yes.
And Turks was so beautiful. It was Robinson Crusoe's island.
Yes.
So anyway, 5 days later, Mr. Stewart called me and told me that I was on assignment to Turks.
To Turks. What do you think, is the differentiator in terms of the different brands that you have worked with? Thinking of a Sandals, you had a personal relationship with Mr. Stewart, and you mentioned Brian Roper and Ben Henry and all of those stalwarts. What for you was the highlight, the differentiator in all of what you had done before that?
I think, coming from Wyndham through to super clubs and into Sandals, I think Sandals was more of a marketing giant and not so much family as super clubs, but they were launching out into the world, and they were taking me with them, because as a general manager and even as a resident manager, I would get to go to London with Sandals. I would get to go to Chicago. I'd be all over the United States.
Yes, pounding the pavement, so to
Eastern
speak.
Caribbean. And not only that, rubbing shoulders with those superstar general managers, because the Louis Grant, my very, very best friend until his passing.
Of blessed
but
memory.
There wasn't a sales trip that Louis would be going on that I would not be tagging along with him.
If we were talking about cricket, you could be referred to as an all-rounder.
That's what I am.
Yes.
In fact, I am one of the few general managers in Jamaica who basically worked in food and beverage as well as rooms division, because at Wyndham I was the front desk manager as well. So it works.
All right. So after Sandals, where you spent some 10 years?
10 years with
Yes.
Sandals.
You transitioned.
I joined the Hendrickson group. And again, that's another family group. And they embraced me with everything. From working with Ian and Kathy Carr, Father Hendrickson was a university I could not pay for. Working with Kevin and everybody, it was just a different experience again, because going into that resort, it wasn't a 5-star resort, and they made no bones about it, but it was the best 3.5, 4-star hotel in the game.
Yes.
And they got the occupancies, and through that hotel, I got connected with a lot of government people, because that's where all the conferences were.
Yes.
And another thing that I hosted Jeff there for probably about 5 years when I was there. And now,
And which Jeff are we talking about?
Jamaica Employers Federation.
Okay.
And of course, now I'm a vice president with Jeff.
So right away, you're talking about networking opportunities that would have
Exactly.
provided. All right. Then from the Hendricksons group, you moved into...
Well, after Mr. Hendrickson told me one day that he was about to sell the hotel, and I was like, why? You're making profit from it, everything. But he said he wanted to, shed that piece of asset.
Mm-hmm.
So I met from about 6 months before. He went to the US and he interviewed a couple of prospective buyers because that's what he was doing. He was
Yes.
giving away one of his prized assets or selling it. And he came back and he said to me, Clifton, I met corporate people. There were 2 of them in the room. And then when I went to Mexico, I would have met a family. And I'm passing the hotel from one family to
another.
The next,
Okay.
even if I earn less from the sale. And that he did. And even then, I was not 100% confident that I wanted to work with the Spanish. So my HR manager convinced me to go to Mexico for a month to work in the hotels over there. And I did. And when we went over there, from the owner, his wife, the sons, everybody came for 2 days orientation. And they were with us for the 2 days, and they made us very comfortable. And I started to warm up to the family. And now I'm, really happy I made that decision.
Tell me about your role at this time at the Palace Resorts Jamaica, Turks and Caicos Islands.
Well,
what are some of the things that you are charged to do? And
having passed through being general manager with Palace, I remember when they interviewed me, they asked me what I would like to be in 3 years' time. And I told them that I would like to oversee a group of hotels. 3 years after that, when we acquired rooms on the beach, they made me managing director to overlook both properties. And after that, I became vice president in charge of Jamaica and Turks and Caicos. And it's a different role. I had to wean myself out of operations because when operations is within your bones, it's difficult to give it up. So I am sufficiently weaned now, I must say, and I do take care of development, a lot of the development work, because we just purchased lands in Turks and Caicos, and we're going to be building 1,000 rooms over there. So I will supervise or be part of that team that supervise the construction right into the opening of that property. And we're always looking Caribbean-wide and in Jamaica as well. We're always looking to see what opportunities are available so that we can expand, because Moon Palace Jamaica was the first hotel out of Cancun for Palace Resorts.
Yes. That was quite an achievement, I believe. And Jamaica was a good choice.
Yes, definitely. And the people, my employees, I mean, they are just the best. They've warmed up to the task.
Yes.
And they've made us the #1 hotel to visit in Jamaica.
Wow. That's quite an achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You also serve, though, as president of the Moon Palace Foundation, which I think is a social and welfare arm of tell me how that goes.
My capable general manager for the foundation, Natalie, and I work very well together. The Palace rotate the presidency of the foundation between the sons. So we normally report the big things on budget to Mexico, but we have such a leeway in Jamaica to do things within our budget, of course. So we do everything from scholarships. We did about $9 million in scholarships recently.
Wow.
So the
And
foundation
these
board,
scholarships would be primarily for your staff, your or members of the
staff,
community.
We
Yes.
have people studying medicine in Cuba, engineering in Cuba, about 7 scholarships at UTech.
Mhm.
I also head the advisory committee for tourism at UTech. So they have gotten about 7 scholarships, and UE, and quite a few other community-based organizations, the churches,
Mhm.
we've given scholarships to, and everybody like that.
So you're into education, health and wellness, those kinds of things.
Yes,
Mhm.
because, and we do other things as well. Like we are the only hotel with a psychotherapist that comes on property probably once or twice per week and just talk to the staff and management and everybody,
Yes.
because especially after COVID,
I was
there's
about
so
to
many
say,
other things going on.
psychotherapist is quite an important thing, especially since COVID. And I recall that during COVID, you were president of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association. It was a very, a very interesting time for you.
Well,
What do you remember most about those days, those COVID days when you were JHTA president?
those COVID days were great days, challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Again, how I got into it, I don't know. But I remember being called by Gordon Booth Stewart,
Mm-hmm.
and he said to me, Clifton, I heard that you are interested in becoming president. You have my full support. Who are your
Contenders,
competitors?
yes.
And when I told him the names, he said, they don't reach your waist. And of course, another hotel owner called me and
Yes.
said, we need a steady hand to lead JHTA through these times. And, you know, Omar Robinson did a fabulous job before.
Mm-hmm.
And he, along with other past presidents, guided me through those difficult times.
Yes.
It was the best time that I've seen that government organizations,
Mm-hmm.
private companies work so well together. It didn't matter that we were competitors in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We worked together.
One
and
common objective.
One common objective under one great leader,
Yes.
the great Edmund Bartlett.
Oh boy, I remember those days. But we had, as you said, people just working together, one common objective, knowing that we had to pull through, we had to get through this period.
We had to get through, and I remember once Minister Bartlett called all of us together as stakeholders,
Mm-hmm.
and he said the United States gave him 7 days to ensure that every single American going back to the US would have been tested before boarding a plane.
Yes.
And Jamaica had nothing at the
We
time.
had nothing
in
to
terms
test.
of testing.
Oh, Lord.
And we brainstormed for a while, and we put resources together, and we got the lab certified. And, you know, I mean, we got it done.
Yes.
And, you know, that's something that, you know, thanks to the leadership again
Yes.
of the hoteliers, Minister Bartlett in particular, we got it done.
Some people shy away from leadership. They don't mind being in the background, or they really just want to be in the background. What motivates you to taking on some of these challenges?
Well, you walk into my hotel and I walk out, and you probably would even realize that I'm the VP
Mm-hmm.
because I'm very low-keyed. But as I said to somebody, when you face me, you face a leader. And that leadership started from my father,
Mm-hmm.
who was a man to fear. And somebody said to me in the hotel industry again, allow people to fear you, but be fair.
Yes.
And that he was. So coming into the industry now as a leader, I like to lead. I love making decisions.
Yes.
And if people around me don't want to, or they are just faffing around, I will just make the decisions for them and move on.
And move on.
That's my passion in the industry, just to lead people, develop people.
Mm-hmm.
And as Bob Marley said, if my life can't help people, I don't want it.
What do you do in your spare time? Because you're a busy man. What do you like to do?
I love food.
Ah,
And I drive to find good food.
Okay, you will drive for food.
Oh, yes.
It's just this week somebody said, I'm not going to drive, I'm not going to walk for food. And somebody else said, it's all right, you don't have to walk, I will drive for food. So that's you.
I drive to interesting places.
Yes.
I like to stay in small boutique places.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that home cook meal.
Yes.
You know.
Or gastronomy is something else, to talk about. Is be another program.
Right. Because I'm also involved with the Shen as well for about 20 years.
Yes.
I'm now the second in charge of Jamaica for Shen, along with Pierre Battaglia and others. So, that's where the creme de la creme of sophisticated cuisine
and dining.
using local products, of course.
Yes.
But I don't mind going to the cook shop or stopping at a roadside restaurant and stuff like that.
But that's good because that's diversity for you.
It is.
What do you say to young men in particular who are listening into this program? It doesn't matter where they are because we do have people listening all over the place, not just here in Jamaica, but across the region, across the world. To young men who perhaps the discipline and the principles that you spoke about that you would have learned initially through your father and through all of the experiences that you've had, what do you say to them in terms of just life, generally speaking?
Life is about choices, and I don't believe there's a wrong choice in life. It's how you carry it out, how you carry out a decision. I remember asking my employees at one hotel I worked, what mistakes did you make today? Because if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. And sometimes the bigger the mistake, the more you learn. And I've made a lot in my life. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just get up and don't make the same mistake twice.
Yes.
I mean, making the same mistake twice is
you would not have learned.
You would not have learned anything.
But you keep trying and trying.
And discipline is important, and mentorship. Just today, I read something. I was asked to meet a guest in the lobby, and the guest wrote me back this morning and said that he was on the beach, and he said to a young man, "Oh, I met your VP." And the young man turned around to him and said, "Yes, he taught me financing, how to do my personal financing, because in Jamaica, we don't learn that in schools."
Yes.
So again, if I am successful, I should basically be teaching the successes and the failures as well that I've learned along the way to these young men so that they can center themselves and they can grow up. So part of what up to a couple of years ago we've been doing, it was basically stopped by the pandemic and we're restarting now, is a mentorship program where I, as well as some senior managers, would take 6 staff, and I normally take the troublemakers and just mold them into what they can be rather than what they see themselves as.
And it's interesting you say that because sometimes they're not looking, their vision is not that far down the road, so they don't see themselves in that particular position or doing X or Y, but you're looking on and you're looking at their natural propensities and you're saying, this one would really be a great executive chef somewhere down the road. They just see themselves as maybe a scullion. We just go and wash dish and we just go on to clean up the place. But then somebody puts that idea in their head and they start to see things differently.
Yes. You have to find that switch in them to turn on, to make them see the light. And then I find out that, and people are so grateful when you help them that way. And sometimes the ones you try to help as well, they will even leave your organization, but they will never forget you.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
And it's okay if they go.
It's okay because for me, they only go to come back.
Yes. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. And I wanted to just close by asking, what inspires Clifton Reader?
Well, as you well know, I'm married to the most beautiful woman alive. And
hi, Anna.
May 8th will be 25 years. And I am also celebrating my 60th year on this earth in April.
Wow.
And
It's a big milestone.
It's a big year and
Of
40
course.
years in the hotel industry. But inspiration comes from having a good family life, working with my brothers and sisters as much as I can, spending time with friends and family, and just teaching people. I mean, my life right now should be a good example for people to follow.
Yes, you're pouring out.
And just where I am right now, it's time to give back to people.
Yes.
In a meaningful way. And that's why I'm always going to be with organizations that are people-centric, that work with the young people to develop them, and even with more mature people to guide them along. I've been with cooks who I didn't know could not read until they started to mess up the orders and everything. And I sent them to private night schools and whatever, and they learn, and they're just the best.
Yes.
So, just helping people is something that I will do into my 60s.
Well, we thank you for all you do. And again, we want to congratulate you on your national award. I know you've been JHTA Hotelier of the Year before, and there's so many other awards, but the reward is the satisfaction that you get when you're able to see that you can touch people's lives in a meaningful way and they can become a better version of themselves.
Definitely. And as a result, I don't have to walk around with cash in Jamaica because anywhere I go, there's an employee who would help me once I have their number in my phone.
I have to see if I can aspire to that, Peter.
I am cashless.
All right. So, and on that cashless note, we want to thank you so much for sharing with us today inside this program. It really has been a pleasure having you. We've learned a lot too. And we just want to wish you a happy anniversary and a happy 60th birthday when it comes, and many, many blessings.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It is our pleasure. And we hope that you will join us again next time on Jamaica's Tourism Titans, wherever you're sharing and listening to us from, whether it's in Canada, the UK, the USA, the Caribbean, Europe, wherever you are. We invite you to drop us a line at letusknow@tpdco.org. We'd be happy to hear from you. Until next time, walk good. Thank you so much for listening to Jamaica's Tourism Titans. We welcome your feedback at letusknow@tpdco.org. Leave us a comment, share, like, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TPDCOJA. I'm Marlene Stevenson Daly. See you soon.